We must defend the truth at all costs, even if we return to being only 12. St. John Paul II.
Many people are fearful when the topic of the end times is discussed, but what does the Church truly teach about it? Today, we will uncover how the end times, according to Catholic doctrine, are a call to hope, not despair. Get ready to understand how these teachings not only shed light on the future, but also invite us to live more deeply and meaningfully. 1. The Church's doctrine on the end times. For over 2 millennia, the Catholic Church has upheld a profound and consistent teaching about the end times. The understanding that this world is not eternal is deeply rooted in Christian doctrine and serves as an invitation to reflection and spiritual preparation. Unlike sensational predictions that try to set dates, the Church teaches the importance of living each day as if it were the last, maintaining solid and vigilant faith. This message of prudence and readiness is supported by Jesus in various Gospels, where he emphasizes that no one knows the day or the hour, not even the angels in heaven. The Catechism of the Catholic Church addresses this topic in detail, reminding us that before the end, there will be a final trial. Number 675, for example, speaks of a time when the faith of believers will be intensely challenged. This period of testing is not new. It is part of the cycle of human history, where moments of profound spiritual crisis have always been opportunities for renewal and reaffirmation of faith. This reminds us that Christ's teachings do not aim to alarm us, but to strengthen our spirit to face what is to come with trust in God. The biblical passages that mention cosmic phenomena, such as the darkening of the sun and the moon ceasing to give light, are symbols that signify profound and challenging changes in humanity's spiritual experience. The Catholic tradition interprets these signs as more than mere physical events. They are reminders that even in the darkest times, God remains sovereign, and his promise of final victory does not fail. These teachings should lead us to reflect on true preparation, living with a pure heart and a faith that transcends circumstances. Trust in divine providence is at the heart of this doctrine. We are called not just to wait passively, but to seek an active life of prayer and virtue. This is where the importance of keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, who guides us like light in the darkness, becomes evident. When Jesus says, "The sun will be darkened," he invites us to see beyond the apparent darkness and find the hope that only he can offer. The Church, as a mother and teacher, teaches us that preparation is not a checklist, but a state of mind, an openness to grace. However, this preparation should not be confused with fear or despair. The purpose of the doctrine on the end times is to instill hope in the hearts of the faithful. Jesus came to show us that even when the world seems to fall apart, deliverance is near. It is a call to keep the flame of faith burning, knowing that the light of resurrection shines even in the darkest nights of history. In times of tribulation, the Church reminds us that we are not alone. Divine help is always within reach. When we think of church history and the examples of saints who lived through uncertain times, we realize that faith is an unshakable refuge. For those who seek to deepen this understanding, I recommend the ebook, 50 Saints, Stories and Prayers for Divine Intervention, which brings inspiring stories of lives that, amidst adversity, found strength in God. These examples show us that true preparation is following the example of the saints, trusting and walking with God in every moment. 2. The Great Tribulation and its meanings. The Great Tribulation, mentioned in the Gospels and detailed in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, is often misunderstood or even ignored. However, its true meaning goes beyond the idea of a simple period of chaos and suffering. The tribulation represents a profound, collective test of faith, a time when the whole world will be confronted with crucial choices about its values and beliefs. This is a moment when the faith of believers will be purified and strengthened, separating what is superficial from what is truly rooted in God. When Jesus speaks about the darkening of the sun and the moon not giving its light, he is not just describing apocalyptic events. These elements symbolize a time when God's presence will feel distant to many. The Church, represented by the moon that reflects the light of the Son Christ, may seem dim in the eyes of the world, and many may feel abandoned. However, this is not a sign of defeat, but a call for believers to seek the inner light, the one that comes from the Holy Spirit and does not depend on external circumstances. The narrative of the tribulation includes the idea that the stars, the faithful, may fall, shaken by the intensity of the trials. This is a warning that even the most devout can face deep challenges and questions of faith. But it is also a reminder that those who stand firm will shine even brighter afterward, like lights amidst the darkness. This period of trial is, paradoxically, a time of purification and renewal for the church and its followers. Church history is full of examples of times of persecution and tribulation, when faith was tested and ultimately shone brighter. In the early centuries, during Roman persecutions, Christians lived with the constant threat of death, yet it was precisely during this period that faith spread more fervent. This is how we should view the tribulation, not as a harbinger of irreversible destruction, but as a path leading to spiritual renewal and the triumph of truth. The Catechism teaches us that despite the darkness, the Church will follow Jesus in his death and resurrection. Every Christian generation faces its own trial without knowing if it is the final one. What remains is the certainty that, regardless of the intensity of the storms, Christ is present, sustaining his church and each of us. It is a reminder that tribulation is part of the path to sanctification, and that by facing it with faith, believers prepare for future glory. Tribulation is not an event meant to create fear or purposeless anxiety, but rather a motivation for spiritual vigilance. Christ's call is clear: staying in prayer, strengthening charity, and building the community of faith are the responses that keep us steadfast during adversities. This spiritual preparation not only sustains us in difficult times, but transforms us into beacons of hope and living witnesses to God's promise. 3. Spiritual preparation and personal eschatology. Spiritual preparation is one of the deepest lessons that the doctrine of the end times offers us. If the tribulation represents a collective test, personal eschatology reminds us that each of us will inevitably face our own end times at death. This reflection should not be a reason for fear, but a motivation to live more authentically and focus on what truly matters. The Christian life is, above all, a journey of continuous conversion and seeking deeper communion with God. Personal eschatology, therefore, is not just about a distant future or dramatic events. It is about the here and now. How are we living our day-to-day lives? With every choice, are we preparing for that final encounter with Christ? This preparation involves more than religious rituals. It includes cultivating a life of virtue, love for others, and detachment from material possessions that so often bind us to the world. It is an invitation for all of us to live with hearts turned toward the eternal, with eyes fixed on values that transcend fleeting concerns. When we think about how to spiritually prepare, prayer is fundamental. It is through prayer that we cultivate an intimate relationship with God, seeking his presence in every situation, whether joyful or challenging. Acts of charity and living the sacraments are ways to solidify this preparation. By living according to divine commandments and turning away from temptations that divert us from the path, we become true disciples of Christ, ready to face both personal eschatology and the collective challenges that may arise. The lives of the saints are a clear example of how spiritual preparation transforms human existence. They show us that it is possible to face adversity with hope and unwavering faith. St. Ignatius of Loyola, for instance, spoke of the importance of living each day as if it were the last, not with despair, but with the joy of knowing that every moment is an opportunity to love and serve. These stories teach us that spiritual preparation is a daily practice, a constant effort to seek God's will and follow it with trust. Focusing on personal eschatology is also a way to realize that, regardless of whether or not we are in the final era of humanity, our mission remains the same: to grow in holiness and love for God. This understanding frees us from living in fear of the future and motivates us to be faithful in the present. Christ's promise is clear: he who endures to the end will be saved. Matthew 24-13. This perseverance should guide our actions and thoughts at every stage of life. True preparation is, therefore, a response to divine grace that calls us to abandon the superficial and embrace the essential. Amid the hustle and concerns of the modern world, it is easy to forget what truly matters. But when we dedicate ourselves to a life of prayer, sacrifice, and service, we are preparing not only for the end times, but for a full and genuinely happy life. This is the essence of personal eschatology, living each day as a gift and a preparation for eternity. 4. The new ethics and contemporary challenges. The modern world presents a series of challenges to Christian faith, many of which manifest as a new ethic that seeks to replace the traditional values of the church. This parallel ethic, widely promoted by the media and secular thought currents, proposes a set of norms that often place man at the center, removing God from the equation. This inversion of values is something that Catholic doctrine has warned about for centuries, and it is becoming increasingly evident in today's society. This new ethic is seen in the attempt to relativize divine commandments, creating rules that are flexible according to human desires and conveniences. The problem with this approach is that it subverts the natural order and Christ's teachings, promoting a freedom that is, in reality, a form of slavery to one's own passions. When moral values are rewritten by man, society moves away from the liberating truth and draws closer to spiritual darkness, similar to that described in the Great Tribulation. The Catholic Church, for its part, maintains its firm stance, reminding us that God's commandments are not restrictions but paths that lead to true freedom and the fullness of life. Christ's teachings are a safe foundation amidst the uncertainties and changes of human ideologies. The scriptures show us that when men attempt to create their own truths, they end up living in a state of confusion and separation from God, as illustrated in the story of the Tower of Babel. This spiritual separation reflects a crisis of identity and purpose, something we see clearly in current times. The Catechism of the Catholic Church warns about the religious deception of the Antichrist, mentioned in number 676. This false messianism is characterized by the exaltation of man above God and the promise of a purely human solution to the world's problems. This approach seems attractive, but brings with it an empty reality, where life's meaning and connection to the transcendent are lost. For many, this translates into an unending search for pleasure, recognition, and material success, which ultimately leave an even greater void. To resist these challenges, Christians must strengthen their understanding and practice of the faith. Religious education, studying the Catechism, and active participation in the faith community are essential elements. A practice that can help nourish the spiritual resilience is reading the lives of the saints who faced similar challenges in their times. These stories inspire us to remain faithful to God, even when society around us appears to follow an opposite path. Be mindful of the voices that promote this new ethic. They can be persuasive, but they do not offer the lasting peace that only faithfulness to God provides. Seeking the truth amid the complexities of the modern world is an act of courage and faith. It is a constant reminder that our mission is to be light in the midst of darkness, guided by the eternal truth that the Church has taught since Christ's time. 5. Signs of the times and eternal reflections. The signs of the times are an expression that often evokes images of catastrophic events and drastic changes, but for the Church, they hold a deeper meaning. These signs are not just visible events, but also subtle trends and shifts in society and spirituality. They indicate humanity's tendency to stray from God in search of temporary and worldly solutions. However, these signs also serve as reminders of the need to return to the essential, the pursuit of a life that transcends the material and focuses on eternal values. Jesus warned us to be attentive to the signs, mentioning that just as we know summer is near when observing the fig tree, we should also recognize the times in which we live. Matthew 24-3233. These signs can include moral crises, such as the rise of individualism, the loss of family values, and the relentless pursuit of material pleasures that never truly satisfy. It is in this constant search for happiness in worldly things that we see the need for a return to the essence of faith and hope in Christ. Modern society, with its technological advances and cultural shifts, offers more options and conveniences than ever, but it also presents new challenges to faith and spirituality. The pursuit of recognition, success, and personal satisfaction has become a central goal, often overshadowing the truth that complete happiness cannot be found in anything temporary. Rampant consumerism and attachment to material goods are clear examples of how the signs of the times manifest in our era, leading us away from eternal values. In this reality, the Church invites us to observe with a discerning and critical eye. Recognizing the signs of the times means understanding that no earthly achievement can fill the void that only God can complete. It is a call to rediscover the simplicity of the Christian life, the practice of charity, and cultivating a true relationship with God. We need to remember that the happiness promised by Christ is not temporary. It is eternal and transcends any earthly circumstance. This realization should lead us to reflect on how we are living. Are we prioritizing the values that truly matter, or are we being swayed by the distractions the world offers? Jesus' words in Mark 13 about heaven and earth passing away, but his words remaining, echo as an invitation to focus on what is unchanging. The signs we witness are not just alerts that time is passing, but that we need to redirect our focus to spiritual preparation and living out Christian values. The preparation to recognize and interpret the signs of the times makes us more aware of our mission in the world. We are called to be living witnesses of hope, embodying a faith that inspires and transforms. When we commit to this mission, we show the world that there is a different path where true happiness and peace are found in communion with God and service to others. The Christian life thus becomes not just a testimony of resilience, but a beacon pointing to the true light that never fades. Throughout this reflection on the end times and their teachings, it becomes clear that the central message of Catholic doctrine is not one of fear, but of hope. The Church invites us to understand that amid trials and challenges of every era, there is a promise of deliverance and victory. Jesus did not leave us with a message of uncertainty, but of trust. He assures us that, despite darkness and trials, his light will continue to shine for those who maintain faith and perseverance. Spiritual preparation, therefore, is more than a practice. It is a way of life. It involves dedication to living according to the commandments, cultivating a deep relationship with God, and recognizing Christ's presence in every moment of our lives. Personal and collective eschatology merge in this call to live authentically, seeking holiness in every act and thought. This is true preparation, being ready not just for an unknown future, but for meeting Christ on our own daily journey. If this reflection resonated with your heart, consider joining our members community, where we delve deeper into the truths of the faith and share exclusive content that supports your spiritual journey. Each member's support allows us to continue spreading this message of hope to more people and strengthen the faith of many. And before we end, I invite you to watch the next video appearing on the screen. In it, we explore how the saints inspire us to live our faith courageously and resiliently, guiding us through uncertain times and renewing our hope in God.